Hello, everyone. My name is Tex. I'm from Authentize. This webinar is basically just to briefly showcase our materials management module, um, which goes as part of our software stack for handling all things additive manufacturing for process management. So I'll start by sharing my screen and just show you a few slides so that you can understand kind of the bigger picture. So yeah, this is my screen. Okay, cool. So how do I get rid of this? Okay, cool. So aerospace grade additive manufacturing materials tracking. This says aerospace, but in reality, this could say any industry that requires a high level of certification. So medical or automotive or defense would be a great example. Just to show you how the materials management fits in with our whole stack, we've got a few modules here that takes everything from the idea of the part all the way to the finished production. So here we have threads. That's kind of our engineering collaboration tool. So it focuses more on the design side of things. We have flows, which is our main production management tool. And within that, we have a few different modules. So we've got an RFQ responder that does automated quoting for additive. We've got materials management, which we will be focusing on today. And we've got the data connector, which is about sharing data and connecting your machines. And we have digital design warehouse, which is kind of a repository of all your designs. So the objectives of the material management module. So QR tagging. So a lot of this module, I'm going to be showing you views from both a high level perspective. So that would normally take place on a desktop or a laptop, but also our QR tagging system, which mostly takes place on the shop floor using a kind of a smartphone or a scanning device. So you can use the mobile device to record actions. We'll go into what batches are, and then what happens to the material, so blending, sieving, testing, etc. You can record actions on your mobile device, including loading up on machines and topping off and unloading material batches, etc. We can set minimum inventory levels, and in the end, I'll just show you what a traceability report looks like. So we'll just run through a really simple use case. It's not going to be too in-depth, but hopefully it will just show you the bare bones of how we track materials, especially powders in this case. Two things to note. So yeah, we have two interfaces. We've got the flows desktop application, and we also have the QR scanning module as well, which I'll show you, but it will be on my laptop screen. Just a quick rundown of what the material management module does. So it gives you full tracking of powder from lot, batch to machine, and then the end part. You've got real-time visibility of the location and status of your materials. You creates associations between the materials, the machines, and the build. And it can support virgin or reused powder cycles as well. And it keeps track of that, which is really important down the line for traceability reports. We also, we record all the material movements. We track any actions that are done to the material, monitor the powder quality. We offer a complete material genealogy, and we, in the end, offer audit-ready materials for compliance, basically. I think that's it for the presentation. I think you guys can see my whole screen. I'll move on to the actual software now. So this is the Flows desktop view. This has all the modules loaded in, including the order intake and order management stuff. We won't focus on that today. So at the top here, you've got your kind of top bar. You've got the order management, which I won't go into, your machine queues, which kind of gives you a Gantt view of the machines that are running at the moment, or you can also do your production Gantt as well. But again, that's slightly separate. The two tools at the top here that are important are assets and inventory, okay? And I'll kind of start from the basics with inventory. You've got your printers, post-processors, and also post-processor services. I'm just going to focus on printers today. And setting up a printer is super simple. You would go to add a printer here, And just to show you the kind of parameters that we track within a printer, I'll use this EOS machine as an example. So going into the printer, you can see its name, the printer type, its location, sublocation. In a bit more depth, you've got the manufacturer, what kind of processes it's capable of, and super importantly, you've got the materials that it's compatible with. And later down the line, when you're loading up a machine, you will not be able to load a machine with material that is not compatible with the machine. You have a work checklist if that needs, if that's required on your shop floor. We also have kind of build plate parameters, which is fairly simple, minimum packing distance, etc., and cost pricing of running the machine, which comes into play when you're doing your automated quoting or you need quoting materials. We've got some advanced settings down here, but they're not overly important right now. So that's setting up a machine. Then looking at the inventory, I'll start with materials type. So going into a material, you can see that for clarity's sake, you can code it with a color. We're looking at niobium alloy here. You can assign testing that is needed for each material. These are fields that can be fully customizable on your guys' ends. So here we've got a flowability test, an oxygen content and chemical composition test as well. We can also associate a cost to this material, which again is important for quoting, and we've got some advanced settings here, which I won't go too into. Now, looking at the actual feedstocks, we have kind of four different labels we can give any kind of stock. We've got your high-level material stocks, which is simply just a material and a location, okay? And within, let's go back to feedstocks. Within a certain feedstock, you then have what's called a lot, okay? So, sorry, just going into here. And within this lot, you have some kind of high-level information at this stage, okay? So the stock overview, you've got 3 columns. You've got your inventory on order. That's any material that's is issued out for order. You've got your lot inventory, which is available. That is fresh stock that has not yet been assigned a kind of purpose. That's free stock to use however you wish. And then you've got what's called batches, which is one level more granular than lots. And that is stock which has been assigned. So it can be, loaded into a machine, or it can be excess powder from a print, or anything like that, okay? So looking at this overview, let's say you did want to quickly order some new material. Let's just go with text 123 is the name. We'll order some more of that niobium alloy. Select a location, so London. I'll just do the default sublocation, delivery ID. Text 123. We'll have it for today. Give it an expiration date. Let's see, in a few months' time. And we can do 1 container and let's say 10 kilograms, for example. That will then take you to this lot. If I want to go back to my material stocks and look at this material stock again, you should be able to see once this is loaded that, 2 seconds. Okay, so this number has gone up by 10 kilograms now, and you can see that's on order. Now, creating a new lot. So one thing to mention is the material threshold reordering. So if you do want a threshold to be set for reordering materials automatically and be notified about that, you can set that here as well. So these are some active lots that are from this material stock, and these are some batches. So these are actually have been placed into some kind of workflow. So I'm just going to start with ordering a new material lot, okay? And again, let's speed through this. We'll call it text 123. Choose a material. It was the niobium alloy. Select a location, London. Sublocation default. Delivery ID text 123. Douche. And here I'm going to say, you know, we've got 5 containers. Each one contains 5 kilograms, let's say, which might be typical for how you're receiving your orders. So a lot with the same name delivery. Okay, that's good. 2 seconds. Okay, proceed. It's okay. Now, going back into this lot. So if I go to inventory and go to material lots, 2 seconds. If I go to feedstocks and go into London, you can see that we have our feedstocks here. Okay. So here we've got 25 kilograms, which is the one I've just ordered. And if I go into this, you should be able to see that. 2 seconds. Or hold on, if I go into. Right, if I go into a material lot here, these are what you call, these are the 5 containers that you've created, okay? You can see that one of them is in a batch now. To move a material from lot into batch, what you do is you can go to your QR codes, and this is where the phone is going to come into practice. And let's say you want the QR code you want to issue this batch into a printer, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a picture with my phone, and taking a picture with my phone of that QR code, and normally this would be done on the shop floor, and then going into this batch. And to create a batch, you just say use the amount scanned and confirm it. Okay. And now you have a batch here. And if I go back into this lot, you'll be able to see that now it's in the batch. Okay. I'm now going to introduce you as well quickly to the concept of a permanent container. So creating a permanent container is really simple. I'll create one just quickly now. So we'll call this text web. The material allowed in it. So it's really important to obviously prevent cross contamination in materials management. So selecting that material means only that material can be loaded into that material. I'll set this as 1,000 grams is the tare weight, and it's going to be a permanent container. And I'll put the location in London. Let's put it in a storage room. Cool. That permanent container has now been created. Next thing, we've created a batch from that lot. And what I want to do now is load a printer. Okay. So if I go to my printers and we go back to this EOS machine and we go to the QR code and we load up the machine, you can see that at the moment, this machine has no batch that's currently loaded on at this time. So we can't do any of these bottom 3 actions until material is loaded. So when I want to load material, you can see there's a QR code that pops up, and we take that QR code that I just took a photo of. So this would be the phone screen that you're seeing now. The QR code of the batch that I just took a picture of is on my phone here, so this should work. And you can see now that we have 30 kilograms from this batch, and we can load, you know, a given amount into this printer. So let's say we want to load half, for example. Okay, we can then confirm that, and the load action is complete. Okay, now if I go back to this printer, a few things have changed. You can see that from that 30 kilogram batch, we used half of that powder. Okay, so 15 kilograms is still in the printer, and 15 kilograms, 15 kilograms is still part of the original batch, and a new batch has been contained that has been loaded into the printer. Okay, now from here, what we want to do is complete this print job. Okay, so completing a print job involves recording the build weight of the part. So there's 15 kilograms in here. Let's say the print job used 10 of those kilograms, for example. We can then save that, and we've got a new batch that's been created, which is 10 kilograms. So this 10 kilograms is essentially our part that we've just made, okay? And 5 kilograms is still loaded onto that printer. Now, going back to this printer, what we can then do is we might want to, there's 3 ways that material can then come off of this printer. We can unload the unused material, we can unload reclaimed powder that we might want to reuse, or we could do record another print job. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reclaim some powder. And for this scan, what I need to do is go and get this, the permanent container that I just created, called text web here. And we want the QR code for it. So I'm just going to take another photo of this QR code quickly. And should be able to, load this unused, reclaim this material back into this permanent container that I created. So let's reclaim again. Let's say 3 kilograms out of this half. Okay, and we can finish unload. We could unload into more than one container if we wanted to, but I'm just going to unload it all into this one here. Okay. Now, if I go back to our permanent container here, what you can see is this batch that's being created is 3 kilograms. So that is what has been loaded back into our permanent container. And you can see here that right now it's unsieved and it's got a usage cycle of 1. So those numbers are pretty important to keeping track of what's happening to your materials, okay? So if I go back into the printer that we were just using, so let's just do it quickly here. Back into our EOS machine, and this will be more fluid when you're on the shop floor with instant ready to hand QR codes. And we go into this EOS printer and go here. And let's say we want to top it off with some new material, okay? So if we top it off and go back to that QR code that I have for that permanent container, it's saying that we want to take powder out of that container that we've just filled up with used powder. And I can load that. And bearing in mind the powder has not been sieved, and let's say I want to load again, let's say just for simplicity's sake, 2 kilograms, and I click confirm, you can see that a warning will come up and say that this batch obviously hasn't been sieved yet, okay, which is important. So what we can do about that is if we go back to the permanent container, 2 seconds, permanent container over here, and we go to this batch, which is unsieved, what we can do is going to the phone interface again, we can then sieve this quantity. So sieving it is just an example of a quality control thing that we have. And it's important when you're sieving, there's going to be like granules of powder that have undergone some form of deformation that will mean that this quantity is going to be less than 3 kilograms because some of it will be sieved out. So let's say it's 2.5 kilograms. Okay. Then what we can do is we can sieve it into a printer. Again, we've got our QR code here. So I can go and just get the QR code from our printer, which will take 2 seconds. Take a picture of that. And what this will do is it will say, it will now allow you to load that sieved powder from our permanent container into our printer. Okay, so now if we go back, to the printer on our QR view over here, what you can see is there's now 4.5 kilograms. So we've topped some of that off. Some of that was lost in the reclaiming and sieving process now. So we also, something to note as well is it now has one reuse cycle. Bearing in mind, some of the powder in this printer is virgin and some of it has been through a reuse cycle. The reuse cycle will always be indicated as the maximum amount of reuses if there's a blending of two different powder batches. Okay, so that's important to note. Now, if I go to our web view and go back to, let's say, oh, sorry, let's go back to our material, or actually, let's do it from here. So, we'll go, hold on. Let's go to our batches now. And if we go onto one of these batches, what you can see is a material traceability report for each batch that's been created. And if I show you in genealogy review, it will give you a better understanding of what's actually happened. So this was our initial batch. We had 30 kilograms to start with. We loaded 15 kilograms onto the printer. This batch here represents the 10 kilogram part that we printed. We then have a top-off batch, and we have the batch that got sent to our container. And if we go into this batch over here, you can see that this genealogy report or this traceability report is here with all the information. And then to get that information out, whatever kind of certification is needed in the next steps, you can then go ahead and export this report. And it'll have all the steps there that are needed for any kind of reporting. You also have other steps that you can do in batches, which I won't go into right now. But if you want to test a batch, for example, which was configured earlier on in the material type configuration, you can do that as well, and it will all be reported or recorded in that genealogy review. And yeah, those are the main features for material management. I'll go back to our. I'll stop sharing my screen. I hope that was clear enough. Sorry if it was a bit janky. It's smoother if you're on an actual shop floor. But I hope it gave you a good understanding of how these things can help with certification. For example, in an aerospace requirement such as A59100, this can really help with 3D printing certification. Does anyone have any questions? I think this is timed at half an hour, so there's a couple minutes. Could you go into flowability test? Is this something that a tech could perform for each material received? How do you set up these parameters? Is this a separate module or is it included? So the testing module is included in the materials management. When you create an order, will it send notifications to purchasing? Yes, absolutely. So you can set up as an admin or as just a general user in your account, you set up how you're notified, and there are ongoing notifications. Dean, I'll make a note of your email and I'll send you a more in-depth deck of the materials management module, which should answer your questions. So the flow and to do with the flowability test, any kind of test that I'll really quickly just demonstrate what the kind of testing stages more akin to. So 2 seconds. Okay, Ari. So on this flows panel, the testing stage is actually more. It comes into play a bit more with the order stage. So if I go into any given order, let's go with some kind of pending order here. You'll see that, okay, we've got one line item here, and within each line item, you've got this space apart, and in each line item, you can give it a prep workflow, which is your initial workflow stages, and then you also give it a production workflow. Okay, and in a production workflow, what you do if you want to edit and create a custom workflow, you can add any of these stages here. These are all configurable fields. So if you want to add like a test or a final inspection stage, and these can either be like outsourced or anything like that. And within these stages, there will be certain parameters that you can check. So I'll find an example with 2 seconds. So if you want to create work instructions, so let's say at a final inspection stage, you need to record final acquired layer height or these kind of tests. What you can do is if it's a measurement that needs a certain threshold to match before the part can move on to the next workflow instructions, the person on the shop floor will have to perform that test before they can go through the next stage in this custom workflow that you create for a part. I hope that wasn't too quick, and definitely feel free to get in touch if you want to go into that in more detail. For any type of material like resin, filament. Yeah, it can be used for any type of material, Aditya. So resins, filament, it'll work for anything. The kilograms can definitely be replaced by milliliters as well. It's all done in the setup of the material. And in fact, any standard unit of measurement for that matter. Is there a way to encompass environmental parameters of the reclaimed material to better understand future issues of feedstock variability? Absolutely, but it depends. We're definitely open to integrating with any kind of measurement or metrology systems that you have in place, but it does depend on your in your specific setup. So the answer to you, Suji, is yes. Okay, cool. Well, we're at time now. I'll stick around for another minute or so if anyone wants to ask anything else. But other than that, I'll get information sent out to everyone, and I've made a note of those people that have asked for specific information as well. Okay, cool, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers, and please feel free to get in contact with me. Thanks. Bye-bye.